I was pretty good with the Twitter machine on Sunday, right before kickoff of the Packers-Niners game. I tweeted out, are you rooting for or against Aaron Rodgers? Right? For or against Aaron Rodgers. And the responses were almost as good as the actual question itself, right? Because the truth is that I didn't mention anything about vaccine. I didn't mention anything about retiring or wanting to change teams or the commercials or the long hair or whatever you want it to be. I didn't say anything about it. I just asked the question, are you rooting for or against Aaron Rodgers? Are you rooting for or against Aaron Rodgers? And I thought it was interesting. You have you'll have people who take it in a bunch of different ways. So, actually, here's the tweet. Do you want Aaron Rodgers to win or to lose? That's it. That's all I asked. And it's about 50-50 if it was a poll. It's non-scientific. It's on social media. So the Packers are trying to figure out what the hell happened. Like, here we thought we had a championship team, and now one game in the playoffs, we're the only NFC team with a bye, we're out. Aaron Rodgers had this to say about why he thinks so many were rooting against him on Saturday.
There were a ton of people tuning in, rooting against us for one reason and one reason only. It's because of, my vaccination status and them wanting to see us lose so they could pile on and enjoy and revel in the fact that, my vaccination status was, some sort of reason why we haven't had success in the playoffs or whatever it might be, some sort of correlation.
Do you think that's why people watched? First of all, Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers, two of the biggest brands in all of the sport. There's also the storyline, obviously, with growing up in Northern California, wanting them to draft him, and the fact that 4 times in the playoffs, that same Niners franchise has ended his season. There's the matchup of two guys who are friends as coaches, and yet one seems, at least in the playoffs, to own the other one. That trend continued. The visual effect of Lambeau Field, right, where we actually have outdoor cold weather, snow, historic stadium, etc. And you have the presumptive MVP or one of the two MVP candidates in an Aaron Rodgers, who's a great player and could have been playing his last game as a member of the Packers. Do I think the vaccination story and saga energized some people who already didn't like Aaron Rodgers? Sure. But the idea that people tuned in to see him lose to help their vaccination narrative, yeah, that's a bit of a reach. That's a Stretch Armstrong reach. Because the reality to it feels like, to me, plenty of people didn't like Aaron Rodgers to begin with. I like Aaron Rodgers. Never had an issue with him. Hung out a couple times I've gotten to know him. I kind of understand a little bit more of him and the things he feels like he's going through. I do not give him a pass for it wasn't his vaccination status. This is where all of the self-awareness is completely out the door. For a really, really smart guy, he thinks that the reason people are, quote, out to get him is because of his vaccination status. 1, I don't believe anybody's out to get him. 2, I don't even think it's as much about his vaccination status as the facade that he carried on and the pushback and then some of the other commentary. And 3, it's merely the straw that broke the camel's back. Remember, this is a guy that held the franchise hostage and is going to continue to do so. This is a guy that has a chip on his shoulder. This is a guy that is super, super, super talented, as good as anybody we've ever seen. He makes a lot of money, and when you make a lot of money, you're up for a lot of criticism when your team doesn't achieve. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he didn't play well. I just, like this, victimhood has been something that's galvanized people. People being martyrs. Well, they don't like me because of my vaccination status. Like, no, lots of people didn't like you anyway. And you played for the Packers. And you're playing your nemesis. And it wasn't the vaccination status, although that's a bit problematic. It's more that this joke of a lie that you kind of continue to carry on. Here's Rodgers on Pat McAfee talking about his decision on what he wants to do next year.
I'd like to, again, be respectful of the organization. One decision that will be upcoming will be obviously Davante and his future with the team. There still is this thing called the franchise tag, which I don't think 17 wants the franchise. Like, no player ever wants the franchise.
Ever!
I think that should be enough time to make a decision by then. I don't want to put myself on a specific date, but I do want to be sensitive to Davante and many other guys who have decisions to make on their own futures, and to drag it out past free agency would be disrespectful to the organization and to those guys, and that 100% will not happen.
This is Aaron Rodgers on what he's not going to do.
One thing I would not do, 100% would not do, is retire and then come back a year later. I don't have any desire to do that. That makes no sense.
Right, so that takes out he just wants to retire to then force the Packers to trade him, and then he can go and, or whatever, choose his destination. It is really weird that the Packers are in a very similar situation to the one they were in at the end of the Brett Favre in Green Bay era. 3 consecutive seasons, he tinkered with retirement. Ultimately, early on in the process, the third and final year, he said, I'm done. They handed the job to Aaron Rodgers, and then he had seller's remorse, really, and tried to come back and get his job back, and they were like, yeah. Then he wanted to go to the Vikings, and they shipped him off to the Jets. But I understand that Aaron Rodgers he wants to allow Davante Adams to make the right decision. I like the fact that his process is going to be faster. I do think the more and more you talk about retirement, the more likely you are to retire. But I just don't understand why he thinks people suddenly don't like him because of his vaccination status. That's being way too much involved in the cesspool sphere of social media. The reality is, plenty of people didn't like him. This just gives fuel to the people who didn't like him. There's some new people that didn't like him, but he made some new fans as well. But he was always a polarizing guy. Always a polarizing guy.